Oh wow, that's awesome. Check out that Gibson garage. Why is Brian May there? So hello everybody and welcome to a new video and welcome to my channel where we talk about everything music from death metal to Queen and everything in between. So a couple of months back, the Gibson Guitar Company announced the launch of their new Gibson garage located in London, UK. And we're happy to see the inaugural ceremony of this new flagship store. And of course, it was no surprise to see some of Gibson rock royalty there. You know, guitar players such as Jimmy Page and Tony Iommi and people like that who always played Gibson. But a lot of us actually got surprised by the fact that Brian May was also there. Because I mean, he was never really a Gibson guitar player. But then I thought to myself, well, he is rock royalty and he is from England. He is definitely a London legend. So, you know, why not have him there? But then Cesar, the CEO for the Gibson Guitar Company, during that event, when introducing Brian May to the public that attended the event, actually said, "We are proud to have Brian May as part of the family." And that spawned a plethora of conspiracy theories. So I'm going to go on a tangent here, but before we get to that, make sure that if you enjoyed the video, please drop me a like, drop me a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think is going to happen between Gibson and Brian May. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel like a man if you haven't yet. And if you really enjoy the content and you want to help support the channel big time, please consider becoming a patron to the channel. A little goes a long way and we surely do appreciate it. Alright, so back to the matter at hand. We have Brian May, we have Gibson, and we have never had Brian May and Gibson like this. Because here's the thing, Brian May has actually played a few Gibson guitars, you know, throughout his whole career, but he was never a Gibson guitar player. Of course, we all know that he famously played the guitar he built himself with his father. You know, the old lady, the Red Special, which he actually built with the help of his father and, you know, some home tools and just stuff he had laying around at home because he couldn't really afford to buy an actual guitar. Imagine that. Of course, other than electric guitars, he actually did play acoustic guitars as well. But he is famously known for playing Ovation acoustic guitars, 6 strings and 12 strings. So really, honestly, the only Gibson guitar he ever played that I can think of was a Chet Atkins nylon string classical guitar. And even that guitar wasn't really played much. So as far as Gibson guitars actually releasing a Brian May signature guitar with actual Gibson original specs, I don't think an acoustic guitar would be the way to go. Even though he actually does play an acoustic guitar now, every now and then during the live performances. So that takes us back to the electric guitar realm, which, if you really think about it, he's obviously always played the Red Special guitar throughout his whole career, and ever since they started making replicas, he's played his guitar and then Red Special replica guitars as backups. But even if you think about Brian May's other electric guitars, it's really hard to remember a time where he actually played Gibson guitars. I mean, he's definitely more associated with Fender guitars than with Gibsons. I mean, think about this. He actually played 2 different Fenders on 2 different video clips on Queen's most successful album in the US to this day, 1980's The Game. He actually played a Fender Stratocaster on the video for Play the Game, and even more famously, he actually played and recorded with a Fender Telecaster on Crazy Little Thing Called Love. So yeah, you know, he's more associated with Fender, I would think. Now, as far as Gibson Les Paul guitars go, he's actually played a few, but only as backups and only very sporadically during the 70s. So there's not a lot of archive for that. There's not a lot of pictures, but if you really dig deep, you're actually going to be able to find a couple of pictures of him playing a black Les Paul Custom with a Bigsby and also a Les Paul Deluxe with a mini humbuckers. That's probably the one that you'll find more pictures of because he's actually played that for a couple more years. So Pat, what about the Gibson Flying Vs? Well, he's actually only played 1 Flying V. That's a misconception there. A lot of people think that he's actually played a lot of Flying Vs, and that's not true. He actually played the 1 brown Flying V we always see, and the white one we see on Princess of the Universe on the video was actually a Washburn guitar that I don't think ever played live. It just looked really cool on the video and it matched the aesthetic of the video itself. And because of the nature of that video, he didn't really want to expose his actual guitar or any of the replicas for that matter. So yeah, personally, I just don't think we're actually going to see a Brian May Les Paul signature guitar. And I definitely don't think we're actually going to see a Brian May signature Flying V guitar. I just don't see it. So what do I think is going to happen? It's really hard to tell, but my money would be on a Gibson branded Red Special guitar replica. Right? Well, a lot of people are saying that this might actually happen, and Gibson hasn't discredited that idea yet. But I gotta be honest, it is going to be weird because of the fact that, Brian May was never really associated with Gibson at all. He never even played any of the amps or the pedals. He's always played the Dallas Rangemaster or some replica of that, and of course the Vox AC30. So yeah, I don't really see the connection with Gibson. But if we take a second and we actually think about this, it's actually not that far-fetched. For the longest time, we never actually had a Brian May official replica guitar. But of course, there's documented Red Special guitar replicas ever since the 80s, and probably even before that. And Brian May himself actually associated with 2 other brands because he couldn't build them himself. And he figured, hey, people are making money off of my design and off of my guitar. I should make my own guitar and endorse that instead. So the first guitar company that actually built Red Special replicas was Guild. And if you think about that fact for a second, he was never affiliated with Guild at all. I gotta really think about it or maybe even research this, but I don't think he's ever played a Guild acoustic guitar or even a Guild electric guitar for that matter before then. Or even after that, I think he's only played the Red Special Guild replica, which if you really look at it, you can tell it's not really an exact replica at all. If anything, it's very far from it. Different bridge, different pickups. I actually got to play a Guild BHM guitar once about 15 years ago, and it felt so much different from the one I have now and from every other Red Special guitar I've ever played that it just felt like a different guitar. And it didn't really sound like a Brian May guitar, and don't even get me started on the bridge. A cool guitar nonetheless, but not quite a replica. No wonder it basically flopped. So a few years later, he actually partnered up with the Burns Guitar Company. Now, the partnership with the Burns Guitar Company actually made a lot more sense because, first of all, they're an English company. They're based out of England. And second of all, well, the Burns Guitar Company is more famously known than anything else for making these pickups, the Burns Trisonics, which are the pickups that, Brian May famously played throughout his whole career. So that actually made some sense. But for some reason, they decided to just make a budget version of that guitar, which actually had a very different neck profile, a very different bridge. It did have the same pickups, but even the switches were a little bit different, and it just kind of felt cheap. And also, if I remember correctly, because I did have one at one point, it was a set neck, it wasn't a bolt-on neck like the actual thing is. So yeah, a pretty different guitar. And for a Korea-made guitar, it was actually kind of steep as far as pricing goes. So yeah, that flopped. So I guess after the 2 strikes, Brian May just decided to take over the production of that guitar. So he basically decided to just buy off the production of the Brian May Red Special guitar, and he just decided to retool and oversee the whole production of the instrument, which honestly I think is fair and the right move. Now, out of this new Brian May Guitar Company, we actually get the signature on the headstock, and we get the feeling that we're actually buying it from the right guy. The guy that actually designed and built this guitar. And now they essentially make 2 versions of that one Red Special guitar. You've got the budget version, which is not really all that cheap, and it feels and it sounds a lot like the Burns guitars. Now, if you've never played a Burns Red Special guitar, and if I had to describe it to you, I would probably say that it feels and looks a lot like a PRS guitar. It's actually a lot like the PRS Mira, one of the SE series ones. I think those are made in China or Korea maybe. Probably Chinese. It feels and it looks a lot like that. And the guitar neck, which is also a huge part of the guitar design, actually feels a lot more like a PRS guitar than it does a Brian May Red Special guitar. But other than that, they actually make the BHM Super Replica guitar, which is basically the best Red Special guitar replica you can get nowadays. So why is he working with Gibson now if he's already making his own guitar and it's perfect, or near perfect anyway? Well, here's the thing, this is what I think. I think it's because of the fact that Gibson has so much more reach and potential for cheaper production. Because here's where the issue actually comes in. I am a huge Brian May fan, in case you haven't noticed, and I have never ever seen a BHM super guitar anywhere. I've never played one. I have never seen one hanging off on any wall. I have never seen one up for sale, and they're a pretty penny. Because the only way you can actually buy one is through their website. And if you want to buy one and you're in England, you can pay £3,295 for it. But yeah, that's a lot of money for a guitar you haven't played. If you're like me, you want to grab it, you want to play, you want to try it out, and then make a purchase. But sadly, with guitars like these, you're actually shit out of luck when it comes to that. To be fair, when I bought this RS guitars, Red Special Guitar Replica, I also bought it sight unseen. Well, not really. I mean, there were a lot of pictures, luckily, because I mean, it was a really expensive guitar, but I didn't really get to play it. But it was definitely one of those deals where if I got it and I hated the way it played, or if something was wrong, something was off, I could just send it back and get refunded my money back. So yeah, I mean, that's the best they could do. But for you to order a guitar off of a website and then have it sent to you months later and then finally play it, it better be awesome. Which, honestly, I think they probably are, because they actually went through all the trouble of scanning the guitar. They actually did research the hell out of the guitar. And of course, Brian May oversaw the whole process and the production of the guitar and stuff like that. But now I think that if he actually partners up with Gibson, you would actually be able to see it at different stores and maybe grab one, pick one up, play it a little bit, see how it feels, see if it's a right match for you. Because I mean, it is a weird guitar, I'm not gonna lie. But now you'll actually get to play one and maybe buy one. So yeah, if I was actually going to bet, I would say it's probably going to be a very limited run, probably Murphy Lab, and it's probably going to be aged exactly like Brian May's guitar is aged to this day. So that would be awesome. You'll get the whole 9, certificate of authenticity, you know, Brian May's signature on it, a lot of really cool case candy, and you'll get a Gibson guitar that'll probably be awesome as. So I don't know what the fans are complaining about, really. I mean, he's actually partnered up with other brands in the past and made guitars that weren't nearly as awesome as I hope this one would be. So, I mean, I don't know what the fuss is about. If I had the money, I would definitely buy one. But then again, this video might just age like fine milk, because this video is actually just based off of my speculation. So I guess time will tell, but I really just wanted to chime in and talk about this because there's a lot of rumors going around. And, you know, it's all fun. It's all a lot of fun, to be honest. And I am so happy and thrilled that the Brian May guitar is actually getting some love and recognition for once.